My colleague Susan Roberts spoke with Wendy Patrick. She's a lawyer and business ethics professor at San Diego State University.
The World Wide Web facilitates criminals going online and persuading innocent, vulnerable people to engage in this kind of activity that leads to the blackmail demand. They can do it from anywhere in the world. That makes it tough for us to find them to begin with.
Is there any way to frame for our audience how big of a problem it is?
Well, if you look at some statistics, they're not going to tell the whole story, because lots of people, lots of victims are terribly ashamed that they've fallen prey to this kind of an embarrassing scam. In fact, many victims actually pay these ransom amounts. In other words, they agree to the blackmail in order to make sure their friends and family don't see the footage, because that's what these cyber predators are threatening to do, is expose the footage to everybody in their Facebook friends network, for example. So because it's underreported, we don't yet know the scope of the problem. But we do have hundreds of reported cases, so you can only imagine how many cases actually exist.
All right, so are international law enforcement working together to come up with the appropriate punishment?
International law enforcement is a collaborative community that cooperates to such an extent that they are able to not only share resources, but share consistency in punishment. That's important because you don't want somebody just to know which country to travel to in order to lessen the potential punishment if they were caught engaging in this kind of despicable behavior. So consistency is key. But one of the things that makes this that much more difficult to find is exactly that. When you have a worldwide combination of law enforcement looking, it makes it more likely that we're going to find the perpetrators regardless of what country they're actually sitting in when they're engaging in this behavior.
So could you, by chance, give us a scenario of how this would unfold? Would this come as like a spam email message to a college student?
Lots of people use the commonly used apps like Facebook and Twitter and these types of things, more so than dating apps. And that surprises some people, but think about it. You've got a place like Facebook where you have access to the person's friends. If you are a hacker and you friend some of those friends, you give yourself an air of legitimacy that increases the likelihood of the victim accepting your friend request. Once they're in, they have access to enough of your personal information that they're able to form a cyber relationship, then move it to that next level where they ask you to take a photograph. Then maybe they want to have you take a photograph of one of the areas, of your private areas. Then maybe they share photos of themselves to make you feel more comfortable. It's never really photos of themselves. And then comes the moment when they reveal that actually they're not a friend. They are somebody that only made contact with you for the purpose of now threatening to make that private information public, whether you took a video of yourself or took a photo of yourself that you really shouldn't have taken in a compromising position, unless you pay a specified sum of money. But it doesn't end there. Some people find that even after they pay the money, then the hackers come back and ask for even more money. So these cyber predators are able to then put into motion a stream of events, cyber blackmail, that often leads to victims paying increasingly large sums of money, and many of these criminals also release the footage. This type of thing is so embarrassing. Victims are so ashamed that there have been instances all over the world where they've actually taken their own lives because these cyber predators have released the footage or released the photos, and they just can't stand it. What law enforcement is asking victims to do is, first of all, to realize they're not alone. People are being victimized all over the world for this, and to make sure they don't destroy the evidence because they've got to save it for authorities, so authorities can then find the perpetrators, not only to bring them to justice, but to prevent further victimization.